Welcome to another Photography Simplified video. My name is Chris, and in these videos, I do my best to simplify photography for you with the goal of helping you to get out and take great photos. Today, we're talking all about composition. We're going to go over some techniques and ideas to help you drastically improve your composition and your images. We're going to look at loads of examples that will help you to better know how you can apply these ideas in your photography. Let's get into it. So what is composition? Composition basically refers to how you arrange the various elements in your frame. That may mean moving things that you're photographing or moving yourself as a photographer to align things in your frame how you want them to be. Composition is important because no matter how great your camera settings are or the lighting, if you don't have something compelling to draw the viewer's eye in, the photo will lack interest. We're going to go over lots of different techniques that you can use to improve your composition. The first of these being depth. You can think of depth as making your photo more three-dimensional. To add depth to an image, you're going to want to photograph things at different viewing distances. Typically, a good suggestion would be to have something in the foreground, close to you, something in the midground, and something in the background, farther away from you. Having elements in all three of these, the foreground, midground, and background, will add more depth to your image, making it feel more 3D and realistic and drawing in the viewer's eye. A photo with little depth is going to look less interesting on average compared to a photo with a lot of depth. By the way, if you find these techniques helpful, please leave a like and subscribe so you can see my other beginner videos as well. Another technique that can help you to compose good photos is to make sure that your photos have balance. Balance meaning that the different elements within the frame call equal amounts of attention. Sometimes this is referred to as visual weight, meaning an object that has a higher visual weight is something that draws our eyes more or is more compelling to look at than something that has less visual weight. To have a balanced photo, we want the different elements to call equal attention, meaning that there's not something overly distracting calling the attention that shouldn't away from our focal point. We can achieve balance in different ways, one of which is to have symmetrical balance, where the elements mirror each other within our frame. You can also have asymmetrical balance, meaning the elements aren't mirrors of each other, but they still can call equal weight to the image, making it feel overall balanced. Another way to add balance is repetition. Repetition is great for composition. Any sort of element that is repeated in the frame is pleasing to the eye and we naturally like to look at it. Adding any sort of repetition, whether it's objects repeating or patterns, it can make our images overall much better. One of my favorite compositional techniques is called framing. Framing involves shooting either through or past something to make your subject stand out. Whatever you're shooting through or past ultimately becomes your frame. It can be an object or anything really that you find in your environment. For example, you could shoot through some leaves of a tree to frame your subject, maybe some wildlife or a mountain. Framing adds added attention on your subject and draws the eye to the subject. Whatever you're using as your frame may not always be in focus because it's often closer to the camera lens, but this is okay because you're ultimately just guiding the eye to the focal point, which is your subject. Another compositional technique that is very helpful is scale. Scale involves adding an element into your frame to help provide scale or size of a particular object. For example, adding a person next to a waterfall. This can help to show how big the waterfall is, or adding a person next to a mountain, or any other object that is easily relatable as far as size goes to help the viewer understand the scale of whatever it is you're photographing. Adding scale can help to improve the depth of your image and make it feel more realistic. There may be times where you intentionally want to leave areas of your photo without anything in them. This is called using negative space. Negative space meaning that there is nothing filling that area or that space of your image. Negative space can help to guide, kind of like framing, a viewer's eye to the subject. Not having something in an area of a photo will add more emphasis on the areas where there are things. Negative space can be helpful to simplify and create balance in the image, as well as, like I said, draw attention to whatever the subject is. Now, the opposite of negative space, which is another compositional technique, is called fill the frame. And just like the name indicates, fill the frame is going to be getting in close on something, zooming in on it, allowing whatever the subject is to completely fill the frame. This means that the subject is probably touching all four borders of the photo, and you're looking at a close-up, usually to highlight some sort of details or something interesting, an element that stands out of the subject. Another compositional technique that can help catch the eye of a viewer and draw attention to your photo is using point of view. If you offer a unique perspective or viewing point on whatever your subject is that is not easily something someone would typically see with their eyes, this can make the photo more intriguing. Some of the common vantage points are low angle, meaning you get down under something, kind of looking up towards it. Eye level, which is what we're typically used to seeing and is maybe not the most intriguing. High angle, meaning you're looking down from above something onto the subject. Ground level, meaning just like the name indicates that you're shooting at the level of the ground. And bird's eye, meaning that you're shooting top down from above. I often take these bird eye images with something like my drone. Another thing that can lead to stunning photos, which you've probably heard of before, is leading lines. Leading lines mean that there are elements or things within the frame that lead and guide the viewer's eye to a specific focal point. Think of a road going off into the distance. The leading lines of the sides of the road, or maybe the lines on the road, guide your eye down that road into the distance. Looking for things within your frame that can act as leading lines, whether actual lines like the side of a road or implied lines through shapes or objects in the frame, can guide and lead the viewer's eye, and this creates lots of visual interest and is a great compositional technique. Another technique that can be really fun to try is geometric shapes. Look for geometric shapes in the environments that you're shooting. Whether it be a triangle or another recognizable shape, photographing a subject that has geometric shapes can be very compelling and pleasing to the eye and something you want to naturally look at. Now, composition would not be complete if we did not mention color. Color is one of the most important compositional elements. Having pleasing colors to look at in your image is going to make a world of a difference. Now, two things that can really help you are to use complementary colors, where you photograph a subject that has colors opposite the color wheel in the image, or analogous colors where they're next to each other. Both complementary colors and analogous colors can really make an image stunning and make it pop. By the way, if this video is helpful to you, there's probably more helpful content in my book, Photography Simplified.
If you would like a visual beginner's guide to photography, check out my book, Photography Simplified, available in both paperback and ebook format on Amazon. The book covers topics including exposure and the exposure triangle, sharpness and focus, gear, composition, editing, and more. It even includes a list of beginner tips. There are helpful graphics to explain each of the topics that are covered in the book. I've put a lot of work into this book to include everything I wish I could have known when I started out. If you think the book could be helpful to you and haven't already, check the link in the description for more information.
Next, we're going to go over some compositional rules. I say rules in quotes because sometimes you're going to want to break these rules to compose the image that you desire, and it's okay to do that. But generally, these rules can help you to improve your composition and make your images more interesting. First, you've probably heard of it, the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds involves dividing your photo into 3 sections, both horizontally and vertically, and at the intersections of these lines is where you want to place your subject. This helps the photo to stay balanced and avoid putting anything too close to the edges of the frame. You simply divide the photo into the thirds and look for one of the intersections or 2 of the intersections, perhaps the opposite corners, to place your most interesting elements. Another rule is the rule of space. The rule of space means if you have something in your frame moving, maybe wildlife or an animal or a person, but they're doing something active, they're moving, you're going to want to leave space for that subject to move into. Meaning, if the object or subject is moving left in the frame, you're going to want space to the left of it where that object could move into. This helps to create that illusion of that action or movement. Not leaving that space for the subject to move into can sometimes ruin that effect of movement in the image. Another good rule is the rule of odds. Simply put, the rule of odds is it's more interesting to have an odd number of subjects in your image. Rather than photographing 2 tulips in a garden, try 3, or an odd number of whatever it is that you may be photographing. Finally, let's cover 2 of the coolest techniques that I think can really improve your composition: the golden triangle and the golden ratio. The golden triangle is similar to the rule of thirds. You're going to divide your photo into sections, however, this time into 4 triangles. You can divide your photo by drawing one line from corner to corner, and then from the other 2 corners to that line. Just like the rule of thirds, you want to place the most interesting parts of your image at the intersections of these triangles. The golden triangle can create balance and make your image very appealing. Finally, the golden ratio. You may have heard of this. The golden ratio is based off of a mathematical constant that's supposed to be natural and pleasing to the eye. Don't worry about all the complicated specifics of the golden ratio. Just know that if you overlay the golden ratio, which kind of looks like a shell, over your image, you want to place, just like the rule of thirds or the golden triangle, the interesting elements at the intersections of these different areas. Now remember, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Photograph the photos that you want to. All of these techniques, rules, and ideas are suggestions. They'll drastically help you improve your composition, but you don't have to use a particular technique if you don't want to. And you can use multiple techniques in the same image. To improve your composition, it's going to take practice, trying different things, trying them different ways, combining things, trying new things, and just taking lots and lots of photos. I know that as you practice these techniques and you get out and take great photos, your composition is going to improve.